My hands in the dirt, the hot sun.
Everyone praises Tony for his complexity, but the Sopranos' most emotionally intelligent character barely said 20 lines.
I'll take this guy apart at the joints.
Among the chaos of The Sopranos, where every man fancies himself a soldier and conducts himself like a petulant adolescent, one figure stands out for his terrifying composure: Furio Giunta.
The north of Italy always have the money and the power.
The Neapolitan import, half philosopher, half blunt instrument, embodied everything Tony Soprano believed the American mob had lost. He was a professional, efficient, loyal, competent, a man who could commit violence without turning it into performance art, and, of course, the only one foolish enough to fall in love with his boss's wife.
We are for the money.
Leaving aside that stupid a subplot, Furio remains the crew's only figure who seems genuinely well-adjusted, at least within the warped metrics of organized crime. He worked cleanly, without tantrum or ego. Where Polly was a neurotic gossip, Christopher a junkie narcissist, and Tony an overgrown infant with a Prozac prescription, Furio was disciplined. He got in, did his job, and got out. No flair, no drama, no need for posturing.
My hands in the dirt, the hot sun.
He could break bones with clinical precision and return home to cook himself a proper meal, the Neapolitan sun still haunting his memories. That, in fact, was his entire philosophy. My hands in the dirt, the hot sun. I was never so happy in my life, he reminisces.
I was never so happy in my life as when I work at that place.
It's a small, tragic window into a man who finds serenity in labor, not luxury. A contrast to Tony's microwaved leftovers and spiritual rot. Furio's nostalgia for his olive grove reveals the emotional complexity the rest of the crew so conspicuously lacks. A longing for purpose, not status. Where Tony sulks in a McMansion he despises, Furio remembers sweat and sunlight as the height of happiness.
It was 'cause of Furio, wasn't it?
Yet professionalism in this world has its limits. Furio's tragedy lies in the fact that his competence and stoicism, so admired in theory, are unsustainable in practice.
See, we forget that in the old days,
Tony wanted an old-world soldier, someone loyal without question and efficient without conscience. He got exactly that.
You're standing too close.
Until the soldier made the fatal error of falling for the Madonna of New Jersey. His emotional breakdown over Carmela is the only visible crack in his otherwise steel-plated demeanor, but it's enough to undo him completely. The man who could pulverize anyone without blinking suddenly couldn't face his own desire. Still, even that failure says something.
Sometimes I worry about Furio.
Furio's affection for Carmela, misguided though it is, suggests that he was the only man in the show still capable of feeling anything resembling genuine love. For the rest of the crew, emotion is limited to rage or lust. Furio's weakness wasn't that he cared. It's that he cared in a world where caring is fatal.
He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator.
Professionally, though, he was unmatched. Had he been dispatched to handle the Pine Barrens fiasco, there would have been no legendary interior decorator to laugh about. Just a clean job and a missing Russian. Furio wasn't reckless. He calculated. His rampage in the massage parlor demonstrates it perfectly. Each swing of the bat deliberate, not indulgent. One hit too few would have been sloppy. One too many, unprofessional. He was Goldilocks with a temper.
Take it easy, huh? Take it easy.
He also lacked the grotesque sadism of his peers. Unlike Ralphie, who treated violence as theater, or Tony, who justified it with therapy jargon, Furio inflicted harm without pleasure. He was detached, not deranged.
We deal with him to a guy named Furio Giunta.
A true soldier in the purest, most unsettling sense, obedient to the point of soullessness. His lack of ambition, his refusal to scheme for power, and his willingness to follow orders without embellishment made him the ideal employee and the least likely survivor.
Fuck, it's that fucking Zip Furio on somebody.
And yet, it's impossible to call him well-adjusted by normal human standards. This is, after all, a man who could strike women and children with the same dispassion he applied to any task. That kind of compartmentalization isn't mental health, it's pathology. His professionalism is indistinguishable from sociopathy. But in the moral swamp of the DeMeo crime family, Such sociopathy reads as sanity. Compared to Christopher's drug-fueled spirals or Polly's homicidal insecurities, Furio's clean violence almost looks enlightened.
So, where do you get your gamuff?
Some have argued that Silvio Dante, Tony's consigliere, comes closest to matching Furio's composure. Silvio, too, was stable, loyal, capable of unspeakable acts before clocking out for a quiet dinner with his wife. Yet Silvio's hypocrisy, lecturing about family values between trysts with bada-bing dancers, undermines his claim to balance.
You having a good time?
Furio, by contrast, lived his contradictions openly. He was masculine without bluster, brutal without vanity, and disciplined without delusion. If the New Jersey crew were caricatures of American decadence, bloated, self-pitying, perpetually distracted, Furio was the living rebuke. He represented the old country ideal, efficient, unsentimental, and tragically obsolete.
I used to drop off the shirts from Batsy's guy.
Even his wardrobe of hideous shirts couldn't disguise it. He made the rest of Tony's gang look like high school dropouts playing gangster dress-up. Of course, his imported efficiency had an expiration date.
Okay, you watch me, you do the same.
In the end, his inability to suppress his personal feelings, his one act of emotional honesty, cost him everything. He could separate business from pleasure until pleasure appeared in the form of Carmela Soprano, haloed in suburban despair. One glance too long at the boss's wife, and the disciplined killer turned into a lovesick exile. It's poetic, really. The only man capable of surviving the mob self-destructed, not from fear, greed, or ambition, but from tenderness.
Furio Gunther? Is that how you say it? Yeah.
There's also an ironic symmetry in his departure. Tony's crew, for all their bloodshed, could never actually kill him. He simply vanished back into the Mediterranean mist, too competent for New Jersey, too emotional for Naples. He was the mafia's ideal employee and its existential flaw. Proof that the organization's fantasy of professionalism collapses the moment a human feeling enters the equation. In that sense, Furio isn't just Tony's best man. He's the show's thesis statement. David Chase uses him as a mirror to expose the smallness of the American mobster. Tony imports the real thing from Naples, and suddenly every flaw in his empire glows under the Italian sun.
I work in the garden as a landscaper for a very rich man.
Furio knows his heritage, understands his trade, respects his superiors, and still manages to cook pasta properly. Meanwhile, Tony eats reheated ziti with a glass of milk. The contrast couldn't be crueler.
Furio Junta just bought himself a little house in Nutley.
Furio's competence also highlights how far the mafia myth has decayed. In Naples, violence is ritual, ugly, yes, but disciplined. In North Jersey, it's performance. The Camorra produces soldiers. Tony's crew produces punchlines. Furio's mere presence, his quiet contempt for their stupidity, his ability to sense when a conversation is over, exposes the crew as amateurs. Even his boss recognizes it. Tony's constant frustration with his men, the addicts, the incompetents, the schemers, is what led him to import Furio in the first place. The irony is that the man he envied most was everything he could never be: principled, uncorrupted, and disciplined enough to know when to leave. Was Furio mentally and emotionally well-adjusted? Certainly not, if judged by the standards of a normal person. But in the rotten hierarchy of Tony Soprano's New Jersey, he might as well be the Dalai Lama. He didn't whine, didn't self-medicate, didn't crumble under guilt. He did his job. He took pride in his work. He even enjoyed the smell of olives. For a world built on lies, that kind of simplicity was almost radical. In the end, Furio Junta remains the one member of the crew who felt both real and mythic. A man too professional for the amateurs, too human for the profession. He could kill without hesitation, yet pause to knock a bee off someone's hat. He was the mafia's version of Enlightenment, detached, competent, and fatally nostalgic. Give Tony 1,000 Furios, and North Jersey would be unstoppable. Give him just one, and the whole operation collapses under the unbearable weight of what a real gangster looks like. If Furio was the cure, Jersey was the disease. We diagnose both. Subscribe.